Well, happy Monday, everybody. Start of a new week. I'm looking forward to it. Trust you are as well. And thank you so much, as always, for joining me for these daily devotions that are part of our, Bible reading plan. And I hope you are reading the chapters every day, writing in your journal what God is showing you, and then watching the videos. That's the way it will work best to help you grow as a disciple. This chapter, obviously, the focus is on Joseph being released from prison after he interprets Pharaoh's dreams, and, and then is elevated to number two, second most powerful man in Egypt, only behind the Pharaoh. And when I was reading this and praying about it and thinking about it in my own life, the headline, the headline that I wrote in my journal is "Joseph always honored God as the source of all of his blessings." And you see that in so many ways here. For instance, when he hears Pharaoh's dreams, and Pharaoh says, "Can you interpret it?" In verse 16 of chapter 41, Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." So, acknowledging that he did not have any natural ability to interpret dreams, that the interpretation came from God, and he reiterated that in that same chapter in verse 25 when he said, "Now Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do." In other words, God, by giving you these dreams, has showed you the future. Again, he's giving honor to God. Verse 28, "It is as I have spoken to Pharaoh." God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. Again, the honor to God. Verse 32 of this chapter, "Now as for the repeating of the dream to Pharaoh twice," remember he had two different dreams, one about the cows and then one about the grain, the ears of grain and so on. He says, it means that the matter is determined by God and God will quickly bring it about. So you see multiple times here his focus on giving God the honor, God the credit, God the glory. Back in chapter 40, when he was in prison and heard the dreams of the chief baker and the cupbearer to the Pharaoh, he did the same thing. In chapter 40, verse 8, at the end of that verse said, "Do not interpretations belong to God?" So again, he's pointing everything toward the Lord. And then you see it again in the birth of his children. In chapter 41, verse 51, Joseph named the firstborn, his first son, Manasseh, for he said, and this is what Manasseh means, "God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household." In other words, he was focused on his blessings. He knew they came from God, and that overrode anything that had happened to him in the past. Verse 52, his second child. He named the second son Ephraim, and here's what that means, for he said, "God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction." So you see multiple times just in these brief examples, Joseph always pointing to God and giving him the glory, the credit for all the blessings and the good things in his life. But I want to suggest that Joseph did more than honor God with his words. He also honored God with his life, because when you read the story of Joseph here in Genesis, his lifestyle brought honor to God. His refusal of Potiphar's wife's sexual advances, his lack of bitterness, all through here, the way he behaved himself and the way he spoke, all pointed to God, brought honor to God. And here's what I want you to see in chapter 41, verse 39, is that people noticed. Chapter 41, verse 39, "So Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'Since God has informed you of all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you are.'" Pharaoh himself, the king of Egypt, recognized that God was at work in Joseph's life, and the fact that Joseph was constantly pointing to God rather than himself, other people noticed. See, when you and I live in such a way and talk in such a way that we point to God, that we honor God, people notice. When we live and talk in such a way that it doesn't point to God, people notice that. So when people look at me, people look at you, what do they notice? A lifestyle, words, behavior, attitudes that point to God and bring Him honor, or that do just the opposite. My prayer after reading this chapter and what I wrote about in my journal is that my life and my words match. That what I do, what I claim are in agreement. I pray that's the same for you. Isn't that what we all want as followers of Christ, as disciples of Jesus? So let's do that. Let's be like Joseph, who honors God with our words and with our life, because people are watching and they will notice. Hey, and by the way, moms and dads, your kids are watching. Your kids are watching. So do well. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.